So let me start by putting what's going on in context for us. And it's really like a perfect storm when you think about it. Because on the one hand, we're dealing with a situation where we're scared, there's issues of safety and health, and people are concerned about their financial security, and people are really socially isolated, and that's feeling lonely and depressing. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the protective factors, which are the things that we do to manage our stress and anxiety, are kind of ripped away from us. And those protective factors are community, our shul, socializing, leisure activities, the structure, going to work, the predictability of our lives. So it's really a huge and unique challenge that we have now, because we're stressed and we're anxious, and all those things that we try to do to help ourselves are more limited. So let's keep that in mind. And I want to talk a little bit about what anxiety and stress are. And actually, anxiety is, worry and fear, and stress is how the body gets manifested from the worry. When you're worried and you're nervous and you're scared and you're in danger, then your body jumps into, adrenaline and cortisol comes coursing out of your body, and your heart rate goes up, and your blood pressure gets more powerful, and your gut shuts down so you could be active. And that could be very helpful because in circumstances of danger. The problem, the danger that we experience right now potentially with stress is that it's going on for a chronic period of time. It's not like this scary situation you're in that you have to run away from and then you calm down. It's sort of a chronic event. And that's when it could be more troublesome. And I want to point out a few other things that are at play and that potentially make us even more stressed out in terms of what's going on here. So let's get into neuroscience a little bit. So the first thing I want to say is that our brains by nature, because of evolution, are wired to overreact to dangerous things. So the amygdala, which is the alarm system of the brain, gets hyper alarmed when it senses danger. And why is that helpful? Well, imagine going back to our ancestors, the hunter-gatherers. They're in a field and they're hungry and they're looking around and they see on the left hand a berry field and on the right hand a saber-toothed tiger. Now, if they weren't more alarmed by the tiger than they were excited to eat the berries, we all wouldn't be here. So basically, we're wired to really exaggerate in our minds what danger is. And I just want us to keep that in mind, that is partially what's going on here. That we get particularly concerned, and it's hard to sift out whether we need to be as concerned as we actually need to be. So that's one thing at play. The second thing at play is that through the evolutionary process, our brain is not wired to deal with complex computations and statistics. Let me give you an example. There was a very interesting psychological research study. There was a group of cancer patients that they divided into two groups, and they had and they both everyone needed the same surgery. And the first group, the doctor said, you need this surgery. You have a 99% survival rate. Do you want this surgery? Should we proceed? With the group to the left, the same group with the same conditions, that surgeon said to them, you need this surgery. You have a 1% fatality rate. And what the study revealed is that when people heard a 1% fatality rate, they were less likely to perform the surgery than the group that heard the 99% survival rate. So I'm using that as an example to explain that it's very interesting that we can't digest information. We don't know how to compare this to the flu and other diseases and heart disease, and we can overestimate our fears and our worries. The third thing at play, the third psychological thing at play, is that humans are have contagious experiences. Emotional contagion and behavioral contagion. So emotional contagion, like if you're surrounded by people that are worrying a lot and stressed out about something, it will have its impact on you. You will start to be affected by that. And the other thing is that as soon as you start to see that you go to Costco and there's no toilet paper on the racks, on the shelves, you begin to also believe that you better desperately find toilet paper, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. And this really supports hysteria to some degree. So I wanted you guys to understand some of the psychological things that are exacerbating what's going on here, in addition to the fact that a lot of our resources and tools we're not able to use. But I'm here tonight to talk about how we can hope better. How can we take this information and understand what's going on and figure out a way to manage to the best of our ability and even ultimately have a positive outlook. So I'd like to talk about 4 areas that are quite helpful in times like this. The first one is, as I'm sure you know, is the importance of staying connected with other people. And at this point, most of it might be virtually connected. And it's interesting because I think some of us are feeling so terribly isolated. We might be in quarantine, we might be older and just living by ourselves, and that's the circumstance we're in, while other people are living with their family 24/7 and not used to that, and kind of an overcrowded household and lots of chaos and commotion. So people's need for staying connected might vary depending on your situation. But what I want you guys to think about is the importance of being proactive when you feel lonely and isolated. This isn't a time to, push your heels in the ground and say, you know what, I haven't heard from my best friends in a week and a half, and, so forget it, I'm not going to try with them. It really should be a reciprocal relationship, and they're not reaching out to me, so I'm not reaching out to them. This isn't the time for that. This is the time to be proactive, reach out, think about who the people that are supportive to you. And I think that's important, because if you're reaching out to the kinds of friends that might continue the hysteria talk, that's not the kind of conversation you need. If you are reaching out to a friend that has a calming effect on you, or a friend that you just have a lot of laughs and giggles when you're in touch with each other, that might be more of what you need. So when you're thinking about being proactive and you're thinking out, reaching out to friends and family that you would like to be connected with, think about the kinds of people that help you and nurture you and is a positive relationship. Obviously, in today's day and age, it is so wonderful, all the different ways that we have communication, whether it's phone, whether it's video chatting, texting. What's great is even moving beyond the one-on-one connections is all the social media platforms. People are finding all kinds of resources and support groups and Facebook groups, and you could really probably find any kind of group that exists. You could, anything you might need, it probably exists already. I know my sister was videoing me from Israel with her family about some guy moaning in the street, Avinu Malkeinu Mana Magafam Minachasecha, and he's screaming and screaming, and we're all kind of, enjoying what was going on in Israel at that moment. So it's really an opportunity. We have all these platforms and really take advantage. My husband, Alan, and some of his friends, they had a pre-Shabbos Ruach Kiddush that they have. Sometimes they have it in person, but he actually got in touch with some of his New York friends, and they all were drinking and having wine together and virtually in a chat. Wait, I'm just checking. It seems like someone's in the chat. Oh, okay, got it. So basically, seek support, try to get it from wherever you can and whatever platforms that work for you. And the other thing to keep in mind is that when you're having conversations with people, be very forward about things you might, again, a lot of Corona conversation, say, hey, let's chat, but let's not talk about that at all. Let's talk about this. So be forthright and straightforward with what you need out of those conversations. Okay, the next thing that's important is in coping, there's social connection, and the next thing is maintaining a healthy lifestyle. So I'm going to go over some basic things that you might have thought about, but it's always good to hear it again and to review and incorporate it and try to incorporate it. So the first thing is to really take care of your own well-being and the well-being of your family. And it starts with taking care of your body, especially if we're in the threat of a virus. We really want to make sure that our immunity is going really well. And, especially when we can have a lot of stress, we have to take care of our bodies even more. So what does that mean? It's the obvious. It's sleeping well, eating healthy, avoiding a lot of alcohol and cigarettes, and exercising regularly. And this might be a time where you throw in the towel and say, hey, I used to go to the gym, and I can't go to the tennis center anymore, and I can't work out. But no, really put in the effort and download anything from the YouTube or the internet. There's beachbody.com. There's tons of exercising that you could be doing all in your home or in your yard. So really try to avoid those excuses that you may buy into, and that's like, come on, let me just throw in the towel, I'm home and I can't do my regular exercise routine. The other thing is, it's important to create and follow a daily routine. Structure is so important that to be helpful to our mood and to keep us feeling like our lives are organized and we have some control. So really try to map out for you and your family a daily routine. And it really should start, if people are working at home or not working at home and they're just hanging out at home, I recommend that it starts with getting dressed. I mean, unlike a loungy weekend where you could be in your pajamas all weekend and you're heading to work Monday morning, so it's okay. I think that we can fall into a bad pattern of sort of not starting our day and feeling like we're ready to go and face the world. So I'm recommending, in addition to the daily routine, start by getting dressed and prepared to have an active day. When you're structuring your time, there's a lot you can do. Make time to be productive, make time to have fun. Make time to go outside. For most people, they could probably be in a backyard or in a front yard. Fresh air, sunshine is so incredibly important. There's research to support that people that live in areas where they get a lot of sunlight and they can be outdoors have lower levels of depression and anxiety and stress. So thank God we have weather on our side, we have sunshine all the time, and really make it your business to get outside to the degree that you can. In addition, something very helpful is some kind of mindfulness practice, yoga, something that really helps you calm the body, quiet the mind. There are mindfulness exercises that, prayer, meditation, a gratitude exercise. A gratitude exercise is sitting and meditating for five minutes about one thing that you feel grateful for. And what's so wonderful about that is that it helps you just reset. I think we're being reactive to the stress that we have. And when you shift your brain and you go from a stress emotion to a grateful emotion, the brain can't really manage feeling both stress and gratefulness at the same time. So that's a particularly useful one. The other thing is to be kind to yourself and the things you choose to do. When I say schedule your day, have realistic expectations of what you can do and don't expect any more of yourself. Some things you should avoid doing in terms of self-care is avoid things that are negative influence to you. So for example, listening to the news incessantly. As I was saying before, we're so hyper attuned to fear and worry that the media is just capitalizing on that. Their goal, you know, they want to give us information, but they also, their goal is to have us be glued to the TV so they can have their ratings up and make more money in advertising. So it's just important to say, like, really, how many times a day do you have to look at the television or hear the news? I don't think there's so much changing from the beginning of the day till the end of the day. You could listen once, you know, once in the morning and once in the early evening. I do not recommend watching the news right before you go to bed, because when things are disturbing us at night, it's hard for us to fall asleep and our sleep is disrupted. And if you're going to start watching things that are upsetting and distressing to you, your sleep might not be as good. So I would limit the news to once or twice a day. Do it early in the evening so you're kind of more peaceful before you go to bed. And limit, like I said, be proactive and limit the kinds of conversations that stress you out as well. The one side point around managing stress of money that I just want to point out, because I think that things are starting to turn economically for people, is come up with a financial plan of things that you could possibly cut back on, strategize for, and maybe you know, if people have a lot of downtime in their work life and not as demands, maybe think of ways in which you could spend your time with self-development. Maybe learning some new skill or tool for your business, or take a webinar for, you know, continuing education, whatever your field is. Maybe if you're having to cut back in what you're doing, maybe invest in a different way in your career. And so those are all the areas when it comes to maintaining a healthy lifestyle. So we talked about connection, healthy lifestyle. The third thing that's super important and very protective against stress and anxiety is finding purpose in your daily life. So it's sort of like, rather than focus on what's wrong, what's not right, what's feeling miserable, it's sort of like how to make meaning and create meaning in your life today. So the first thing is, on a very simple level, take in the good that you're all doing. I mean, I think particularly in Florida, we are all under these social distancing and hunkering down and doing these things because we're really trying to protect the people that are most at risk. So reframe it for yourself, and just as something that's altruistic, a way to give back the community, a way to take responsibility and pitch in and be part of a greater cause than ourselves. So that's one way of finding purpose to what's going on here. The second is, figure out the many ways that you can help others. And it could be big or small. It could be something like walking someone's dog that really can't get out. It could be buying and delivering groceries for someone that's in need, getting toilet paper to someone. And even if you can't do these concrete things where you're going out and you're doing something for someone else, think about the people that can really use a phone call or feeling really lonely, someone maybe elderly that would really benefit from you checking in on them. What are the ways in which you can take this time and find your best self and give back and create meaning and purpose during this time? The other way in which you could create purpose is using this time for personal growth in any kind of way. And like I said before, it could be career development, or a chance to grow, get better at the language you wanted to learn, or study, you have more time for learning Torah. How can you use this time to improve upon and get a chance to focus on something that just you have no time for, because life is always so frenzied and hurried? Whether it's getting a chance to clean out your closets or take care of some project that you've been dying to do for so many years. If you have this time, create purpose and go dig deep and find those things that really matter to you that you just haven't had a chance to take care of in a really long time. The fourth area of coping that I want to talk about is learning how to have healthier thoughts and stay positive during this time. The first thing is, how do you keep things in perspective? When we're in a worry state, we're so doom and gloom that we forget about all the things that are actually going well in our lives. And roughly speaking, are we in a good place? Are we, do we have people that love us? Are we generally healthy? Is this going to be mainly something temporary that occurs in 2020 and then probably our lives will bounce back? How are our children doing? Just the many ways in which things are actually all right. And we forget to pay attention to that when we're so busy worrying. The other thing that's helpful in terms of healthy thinking is staying away from the catastrophizing, really sticking to learning facts and information. There's so much going on, fake news, I can't even keep up with it. Stick to the CDC, stick to the World Health Organization, and really use the facts. Because as I mentioned before with the surgery conversation, even the human brain has a hard time digesting lots of facts. We want to at least make sure we're trying to digest the facts that we need to. The other thing to keep in mind in terms of healthy thinking is learn from your own past. We might feel unsure and insecure about how we're going to manage this, how we're going to survive this. Take note of your own histories, dig deep, figure out the times that you were going through some other trying times. It may have been communal or may have been personal. And what resources do you use for yourself then and apply them now? What is your strength? What does work well for you? And try to do those things. The other mental shifts that I want you to think about is control what you can control and avoid dwelling about what you can't control. Okay? So what's within your control? What you can do for your family, how you can set up your schedule, how you could be healthy, how you could take care of loved ones. If we sit and preoccupy about how am I going to get it next? Who had it? Did they give it to me? Those are all things that is mental energy that's torturous and doesn't serve a positive function. So think about, what can I feel in control of? Because we feel less stressed out when we start to feel a sense of control. The other thing I want to point out is be in a mind attitude of accepting this change. What we do a lot is we focus on if only this, and this month this was supposed to happen, and I was supposed to go here, and I was supposed to go on this vacation, and we were planning this event, and my work was supposed to go in this direction, and when I was cleaning for Pesach, my kids were not supposed to be home, they were supposed to be out in school, and we're really in a non-acceptance frame of mind. But what's important is what is. And there's this simple phrase, it is what it is. That's all we've got. What is. So when you start to say, okay, but all those things I wanted didn't happen, what is happening now and how can I make the best of it? So it's a bit of a mental shift, and it has dramatic effect. Another thing to think about is not to live in the future, but just live in the present moment, because the only moment that really exists is the here and now. What is going on today? What am I going to do with my today? And when we start worrying about the future, we're just bringing ourselves out of our present moment. We're jumping into the future. There's a lot of worry there, and it stresses us out. So really, let's all just take one day at a time. The last couple of ideas I want to start with by saying, try to have a hopeful outlook. What are you going to be hopeful about? What's coming up? What's coming up in 6, 8 months from now, in a year from now, when this is all over, and hopefully we will all get through this? What do you have to look forward to? Not in the crisis now, but above and beyond that. what can kind of, I'm actually laughing right now because I just said it a second ago, to live in the moment. But I guess what I'm saying is have a brighter, positive outlook about the future. You don't need to go be thinking about your days in the future, but just have this sense of like, things will pick up. They always do. And there's a psychologist, Fishoff, I can't remember his first name, but he's a psychologist, and he has expertise in studying previous pandemics and world traumas. And he studies the psychological aspects of people when they undergo crisis situations. And he said that overwhelmingly, people typically rally around each other, they support one another, they act bravely, they're resilient, and they take a bad situation and make the best of it. And I find his research so encouraging that as human beings, we do get through things, we do survive, and for the most part, we're stronger and more resilient. And we have the experience of knowing we can do it, which really strengthens us. And let me end with this one thought, and then if anyone has questions, feel free to unmute and we can talk a little bit. The one thought is that Darwin has this famous concept of survival of the fittest, that all animals, over time, it's the fittest animal that gets to survive and produce and produce and produce. And the psychologist Jonathan Haidt said, you know what, that is right for the animal kingdom, but humans actually are more fragile than animals. Humans are not that strong and are not so capable to weather wild animals that are stronger than us and natural disasters that are stronger than us. But what humans do have is a different concept, not survival of the fittest, but survival of the friendliest. And what he says is that we are strong when we band together. We are strong because we help each other out. We survive and can outwit and outsmart all kinds of adversity that comes our way because we use our minds and we're all in it together and we all take care of each other together. So I find that very inspiring, and hopefully we can keep that in mind. Okay, so I think Avi is no longer here with us. If anyone would like to speak, you can just step in and unmute yourself. Okay, I guess just checking in on the chat, if anyone has a chat.
Aliza, I just want to say thank you. It's Danny. This is great. Oh. And I hope we can do this again. If we somehow can set up, regular something would be awesome.
I am definitely happy to have some kind of periodic thing, and maybe we could have Avi Fryer reach out if people maybe could message him and express what kind of thing they might be interested in. I'm happy to facilitate a group talk or something, or any other topic that people feel they might be interested in when it comes to anything psychological. I'm happy to be here. And I actually look forward to communicating and connecting with people. So thank you, Danny, for that suggestion. Checking in if anybody else wants to comment, have thoughts that they can share.
It's Rabbi Freiberg. I also just want to thank Aliza. I know my wife was in touch with her originally about this idea, and so graciously agreed to do this. So again, thank you so much. And not to steal your thunder, but to continue to advertise the mental health initiatives the shul is doing. Lily Rosenblatt will be running another session tomorrow night, a little bit of a different forum. About this size actually, but we didn't know how big this would be, but tomorrow night will be limited to 25 people and more of a discussion-based model, which I think Aliza is willing to do as well in the future. Tonight was more informative, more ideas to think about, but I'll definitely continue the conversation with her offline about what people are interested in and what we might want to do going forward. So please feel free to reach out to her, reach out to me or my wife, or Avi, any of us, all of us, so we can get your thoughts. And let anyone know who missed tonight, or if you're interested in more of a discussion-based thing in the immediate future, we do have one already planned for tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. You can go on the shul's website, yh.org/mhealth, and you'll see there's a link there. Tomorrow you have to kind of pre-register, just click and we'll send you a link to the Zoom call. So that's in the immediate future, and we hope to be continuing to do as much as we can for the community, both with the online tutorial we're providing, as well as mental health resources, and helping to keep our community together as much as possible while we're unfortunately physically distant. So again, thank you, Aliza. Not to end the conversation, we just want to slip that in there before we end.
Thank you. And Lily did mention to me that she will be doing some mindfulness practical exercises, as well as being an opportunity for people to share and get support from each other. Just checking in if anyone else wanted to comment. Otherwise, I guess we can stop for the evening. Thanks again, everyone, for joining me, and have